Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Psycho for Tyco. We're continuing our Super 630 series, and one of the things that's always been discussed in a lot of model railroad forums is, what do I use to strip the paint on a locomotive? Well, for Tyco and most other model trains, we're going to show you how, next on Psycho for Tyco.
From Tyco, of course.
Here. All right, and we've gone ahead and we've disassembled our shells a little bit more. These are, of course, the plow ends for our Tyco Super Century. I had to press these in gently, and then I had to pop these out so it would swing out. And I wanted to do that without damaging them, because we're going to keep those in line with our SP model. And then when I was trying to pop out the glass out of our model power job, I found out that the cab was separated. And the plastic was pretty brittle here. So I'm going to have to use a little plastic welder to fix up some of these cracks along here. Now what we're going to replace this with is we're going to replace this with an Athearn motor that I can't remember what I pulled out of, but Athearn motors, especially the newer ones, this is an older model, but these are 5-pole, these move really smooth. And when I was test fitting the trucks in with the motor, well, first of all, the motor drops in real nice. However, as you can see here, it's offset, so when I put the trucks in, I'm not going to be able to put the shafts in correctly. The shafts are going to have to be cut. And this is kind of a critical thing when you're trying to repower or redo any sort of model train project for a shell. Say you got a shell, you don't have a chassis, you don't know exactly what chassis to get to fit in. It's always a good idea to figure out where things are going to go. Because of the old style Mantua Tyco mounts for the fuel tanks and the weight here, I'm going to try and leave these in, but I'm going to trim these down with the old handy dandy Dremel. Not with this piece though, but when it gets there, I'm going to file these down smooth so I can kind of make a clip to clip the motor in, keep it pretty well solid. The other issue I was having, and this model power was, it's like super brittle. This thing must have been like left outside forever. Let's move this out of the way for the moment, and then we'll get to our roof. So these power trucks have a very high tower for gearing, and I kept trying to fit it in, trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to get these trucks to fit and swivel at the same time? And you know, I was trying to gently pop off one of the clips. That broke, so plastic welder with that. What I've come across with an idea is, I think I'm going to wind up trimming down the old model power mounts for their trucks and fitting them into the body. And just a note for everybody, I'm pretty sure you've come to this conclusion at this point in time, but this is the first time I've attempted it as well. So you're walking along with my first attempt tries and my discoveries and how I'm going to fix things. As I said earlier, this cap comes off. This top comes off. This is going to be great for when we have to modify it to our SP light package. That's making me like super duper happy on that. But let's go ahead and let's start stripping the parts in preparation for cuts. Now with most Tyco paint jobs, in model trains with their paint, I found this to be the best way of stripping paint, and you wouldn't believe it. You know, I've told people about this, and they're like, what, brake fluid? It's got some sort of chemical thing that lifts off the paint? You know, I'm not a scientist. I'm not that much of a super genius, but DOT 3 brake fluid seems to work really well in stripping shells. Most shells. I got to point that out. Most shells. I know brake fluid doesn't strip the paint off a Kato or Kato, however you want to pronounce it. I know it doesn't strip the paint off a Bachmann too well. But I mean, for the most parts, it's great to strip. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to make a get a container that I can drop these in. And what I found really neat as a container to use, in my opinion, is one of those for the Swiffer pads. That seems to work real good as something big enough to put enough brake fluid in to strip these off. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to strip these off in preparation for our work, and we will be right back with that. As you can see here, like I said, I got one of these little Swiffer trays. They work great. I've got our units sitting in here waiting for the brake fluid to do what it's supposed to do. It's going to be a few hours, so we're just going to use the miracle of time to fast forward until it's ready to strip. As I'm showing you here, when the brake fluids start losing its effectiveness, this is what's going to happen. I've been having problems with getting the paint stripped off of this old Ralston Purina reefer, which again is one of those notes in asking the internet for help. Because these Tyco reefers they're wood sides, but they're metal ends and all that. I wanted to know basically which era car this was good for, because I want to kind of use it in one of my period trains. I'm not sure if it's going to be my V&T or my TNT period trains. Although I am working on another period railroad. Why? I don't know. But yeah, when the brake fluid loses its effectiveness, you're not going to get the paint off. So unfortunately, I had to buy 2 new bottles of brake fluid to make that work. I'm going to drop this in the mix too, because I want to strip that before I go ahead and paint it reefer brown. I think I found a road appropriate for this, but that's neither here nor there. I just got this to show you what happens when the brake fluid loses its effectiveness. And for the most part, brake fluid is good for, 6 or 7 strips before you have to replace it. So it does get to be cost effective. And I think my neighbor's dog wants to play with me. Now we've had our stuff sitting in the brake fluid in our little pan here, maybe for about 3 or 4 days. And yes, fresh brake fluid works great. This is that Tyco 40-foot reefer that wasn't stripping right. But now take a look at what my Super Century did. Now that's some serious stripping right there. We're not sure on the model power yet, but let's get this stuff cleaned up first. So we're going to use warm water and a toothbrush. And we're just going to use a toothbrush and brush it away. And as you can see here, I mean, look at that. That came off real nice. That got about 90, almost 99% of it off. And what we're going to do when we are done here, we're going to Run it through the Wash-O-Matic. Let it dry. And you notice I'm just using a toothbrush. I'm not using literally anything else. And you can see how quickly and how easily after a couple of days that shell comes off. Let's get our reefer done here. That's just getting off all the rest of the stubborn paint that was on here. That's ready for paint. Alright, let's see how our Model Power one did. It doesn't look like it stripped off much. Ah, okay. Wow. That actually did real well. I was just looking at it and it didn't look like it had crinkled any. So I wasn't 100% sure. Yeah, this one might need a little more work, but we're not worried about this part. We're more worried about the front because we're going to be doing a cap swap here. We're gonna drop this one back in. We're gonna see if it's gonna strip more. But yeah, there you go, folks. You want a way of stripping down certain model railroad bodies or cars or anything like that? There you have it. Alright, we're going to let these dry out, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put it back into the brake fluid just to see if we can get anything else off. Again, I'm not too worried about the front end here on this one, at least the cap part, because as I said before, we're going to remove the cab. We just want this body, and this body stripped beautifully, I think. I mean, that's about 95% of it right there. Model Power, it's stripped. I wish it would have stripped some more, but we'll get to it. So we'll be back through the miracle of time and we'll strip it some more. Alright friends, as you can see here, the units are now out. They've been stripped. With our Model Power unit, I would say maybe about 80%, 90% of it's been stripped. I'm not too worried about the back end. Obviously, we want to focus on the cab. And hopefully this will work with this. If not, we're going to have to play with something else. But I find it interesting too that this was the cab top for our Model Power job, and yeah, real interesting, different color. But when we look at our Tyco 630, yeah, we got different molded colors as well. Now I still got to do a little bit of extra work. I've got to get like a small screwdriver or a small X-Acto knife and get some of the paint out of the grill portions, because we are focusing basically on the back end of this and not so much the high hood. So we're going to get done with that. But as usual, we have run out of time. So with our next step and our next video will be us applying our motor, which I'm using an Athearn motor. I think I suggested that in one of my earlier videos. And getting our trucks to mount in here. And that's going to be a fun little challenge, because when I was trying to salvage the AHM truck mounts, they came out too short to clip in here. So got a solution for that. Going to be playing with that. And little metal thingy. So yeah, next episode, mounting our motor in, mounting our trucks in. And we'll see in about 2 weeks, because it's going to probably take me about that long to figure out a solution. Ha ha ha. No, I've already kind of got an idea of what I want to do, but with, you know, the usual adulting and everything else, it's going to take me about 2 weeks to get this done. So we'll see you in 2 weeks on the next episode of Psycho for Tyco. Alright friends, that's the end of this segment, and like I said, I'm not sure how long it's going to take to build this, between work and everything else I got to do, work, adult, all that. We're going to take another break. We'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll see how this one turns out next on Psycho for Tyco. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Hey friends, thanks for watching the video. I know you're at the end, but if you like this video, just remember, every 2 weeks I'm going to be bringing out a new video on budget model railroading, the history of Tyco trains, the history of other model railroad companies, and some how-to things that maybe you've never learned before, or you've known and you want to share with your friends but you never knew how. Well, here's the way. All you got to do on this video is like, share, subscribe, and if you want notifications, hit the little bell there, which I still don't know how to do, but we'll figure it out eventually. But until then, hey, we'll see you in the next video, and I am Psycho for Tyco.